plausible. Would you have ever thought it was plausible that before the Jews arrived in Palestine, my views of Zionism are more colored by like moral.
That's not answering the question, Sam. I think you presently hold ridiculous. I think no historical analysis is complete without like making reference to the conflict between India and Pakistan.
It would be really funny.
Is why when there's so much stuff in here, and he is for the Gentiles, and it ain't no Northern Kingdom. Northern Kingdom wasn't called the Gentiles just because they was scattered. There 12 tribes of the devil for free.
But then him over there, well,
I can't trade it. Freedom in what sense? All aspects, in human way, in your economy, and your political, or your lifestyle, it's different. I think Egypt. Everybody knows Egypt.
And then if you want to tell me that I'm wrong, then understand my epistemological position to tell me why I'm wrong and how I'm using my epistemology wrong. And
okay, so this is what I was gonna say. So I'm gonna test your beliefs today, Simon.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, when it comes to atheism, right? And you said
sure.
that guy said you can't be atheist and have any morality, correct? That's what he said, right?
Yeah. He said like if you're an atheist, you can't have a moral position.
Okay, so this I kind of believe that because an atheist can say, let's say, he can make anything justified in his eyes, correct? Because there's nothing else that's holding him other than his own beliefs, other than what he believes in himself, correct?
I mean, I know that's no. I mean, that's a garbage position. That's like.
No, go ahead.
Well, that's just a subjective. That's just a subjective theory of morality. I believe in objective morality.
Okay, let's just say I was an atheist, right? I can say anything. I can justify pretty much anything, really, because there's nothing that's really holding me firm to being a good person. Like really, I can just
except for reality.
No. Forget about reality. Like this.
I can't forget about reality. The facts of living, the facts that give way for me living as a human being, are dictated by the facts of reality. So if I just throw out those facts, then I have nothing to contrast reality with or morality with.
Okay, so what's stopping you from raping a girl other than the laws of this land?
The fact that the initiation of force is always evil.
Oh, okay.
Right. So the initiation of force is always evil, and then if I want to concretize that, then I just say, okay, well, let's look at the society that practices force on a daily basis in every facet of every human being's life. We can look at North Korea. Is North Korea a thriving society where human flourishing is promoted? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, so then I know that. Okay, so then if we negate the mind of human beings, because that's essentially what force is, if you're negating the mind of human beings and you remove the capacity for human beings to live, and we know that reason is man's basic tool of survival, then you're incapacitating humans you've incapacitated a human qua human for living as a human being. So in order for you to live as a human being, you have to be able to think. You have to be able to use your reason, right? And North Korea practices obliterating that. So then we look at North Korea. Okay, well, if I don't want to live as a North Korean, if I don't want to live in that sort of society, if I don't want to emulate that sort of society, then what would the conditions have to be in order to avoid that? And then I am an advocate of freedom, like total freedom. And then you have to look at what that actually, what that is, and then what would that actually look like. And then like freedom requires human beings to think. Freedom requires like the capacity to reason. Freedom requires a lot of conditions to be met. So then, yeah.
But
I don't want to leave with a subjective claim. So let's go back to initiating force. What do you think it is a bad thing or evil?
Oh wait, hold on. Sorry. Sorry, I was.
How-
and they
Powerful.
turned it. I'm like, wow. Even like when I was like, ew. They're willing to.
Ew, Bubba, ew.
If you have credit card debt and you're filing bankruptcy, they can take your house or they can turn it over to a trustee to liquidate to the point of covering the debt before they'll file bankruptcy. I thought, that's not in favor of the homeowner. And this was a medical case.
Wow, I did not know that. Because
Yeah.
that to me is the whole like why their rates are so high and they charge, they're taking a risk on whoever it is that they're loaning to, and they determine the limits that anyone's allowed based on credit scores and etc. But the idea that if you didn't pay, that they can actually come after you and take your house, I mean, well then that's not unsecured debt. Like, what's the language like when obtaining those credit cards? Does it actually say that if you don't pay them back, like? And how do you call something unsecured debt when in fact it isn't?
And that was my question during all of this discovery. It was like, are they talking like I can see secondary homes or investment, like those kind of, like, I'm trying to make logic in my head. And they were like, nope, it's my primary residence. Even if it's your primary residence with minor children, stuff, like if this is truly, they are allowed to take, because they know the amount of equity that's built up in that house, especially in some they're like, no, we're entitled to that equity to cover the debt. And if it means taking your house or forcing you into a sale to acquire that equity, we're legally allowed to.
As contractors, I mean, they work for contractors, and the government doesn't care when contractors, companies send them the bill for whatever they do, IT work or security work, or it's usually IT and all this stuff. They just write checks. That stuff needs to be checked and balanced because that's taxpayer checks. So I agree when they talk about there's contractors in the militaries charging the government, $100 for a screw because the government just pays. Yes, that needs to be looked at, but the answer is not to dismantle a whole department. That you're only going to find out what's the consequences of what you did a year or 2 years down the road when you got veterans with no veteran services, when you have when they're talking about cutting Medicare, Medicaid, I think.
That's what I meant. They just know that they're physically full. Reciprocate. Fuck you.
One of the first things which everybody should understand is that every creature in the universe that is in any way sensitive and in any manner of speaking conscious regards itself as a human being. That is to say, it knows and is aware of a hierarchy of beings above it and a hierarchy of beings below it. If you take such a tiny creature as a fruit fly, which lives only a few days, it is is aware of all sorts of weird little animals and objects and spores floating in the atmosphere, which we don't even notice unless we've got a microscope around, and very few people have. And it criticizes them as being inferior animals and all that sort of thing, whereas human beings are things that it doesn't comprehend. They're as much outside its intellect as a quasar is outside ours. And we see these far-off objects floating in the heavens, and we have only the vaguest idea of what they may be. Actually, we may all be some kind of atoms within the hair on somebody's nose in another dimension. That kind of atoms within.
Because my Bible tells me so.
Oh, really?
That's right.
Who cares about your fucking Bible? What about my Bible and my beliefs?
Oh, be you. Yeah, like, whoever wants to be they, he, she, it, fucking whatever,
They,
be that.
them, get the fuck out of here.
What?
You need to open up your heart, sweetie.
You're a hater. Haterade.
You are. He's a fucking hater. I hate that guy.
Winston done some haterade this morning.
Big Light, you know me, Big Light. I ain't never been no hater.
Why are you being mean? Saying that they can't be.
Big Light, we used to share the same, like, letters and shit. Like, how can I be a hater?
The same letters.
You are a hater.
Big Light, you used to be an ABK.
Oh yeah, I used to be part of ABK until you guys, I said, fuck you guys, I'm a one-man army. Yeah.
She's I'm not doing right. What is the replacement? I'm not here.
Christian, go ahead. That should be. So I just want to say it is a good thing if people are no longer working in the government, because that means that those folks can now go into the private sector. Also, this would also support my position on stopping to issue out any new renewals or any new applications for work visas. Allow all those work visas to expire, and all the people who don't have jobs that came out of the government agencies, they can go back into the regular workforce in the private sector, and the private sector can continue to flourish, and the private sector will reap the benefits instead of the government reaping the benefits. That whenever there is a stoppage inside the government, the private sector does well.
Thank you, Christian. Hold on. I'm sorry. Samia, I apologize. I skipped over Holly. She had a question. Go ahead, Holly.
Thank you. Just two quick things, Christian. That was an interesting point you made. Bella, well, let me start with one statement and then I'll ask my question. The statement is, you're right. I think the strategy that they're taking, which is the strategy that they use in the tech industry to trim fat and restructure, and then if they deem that positions were actually critical, then they bring that said individual back or fill that spot. Okay, so it does sound like they're utilizing that. And that could be risky. You're right. It could cause some chaos. It could backfire. But what if it doesn't? Like, what if it actually works? I mean, I think a lot of us feel like what we've been doing isn't working, and there's no one's actually done anything. We just kind of bitch about the inflation, the inflating top-heavy federal government, and then we just keep complaining, but no one ever actually does anything. So maybe, like, a lot of us feel like, well, we just need something kind of radical. Like, let's fucking try it. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so I guess my question to you is, Bella, what if it actually doesn't cause chaos? You know, like, are you, what then? You know, so that's my question to you. How are you going to feel like if it doesn't cause chaos?
It's already caused chaos. I work for the federal government, and I have for 14 years. So I know a little bit about the federal government, and before that, I was in the military. So I know quite a bit more about the federal government than most people on this stage. and how the military worked. So what I'm saying to you is that just blanketly firing people just because they're on probationary status doesn't accomplish anything. A precision surgical cut to the government, yes, I support that. But what I don't support is just blanket firing of people who may be needed in the federal government, and just throwing it at the wall and just seeing what sticks, and just doing it out of hand is reckless, irresponsible, and ridiculous. It really is.
Wait, Bella, I want to ask you a clarifying question. Just
like literally people who were hired. I have 2 coworkers who were affected by cuts last week. These people literally came to the federal government in June and July, respectively. 2 people, and they now have no job because of these cuts, and not because of performance, not because of anything untoward in their background, but just by virtue of having joined the federal government less than a year ago.
Can you share with me like the blanket, because I have heard of the probationary period thing, and I think people under 2 years being considered to be laid off, and also people in a probationary period, and you can also be in a probationary period if you get a promotion and then take a pay raise, which would put you in a probationary period. That's what I'm just talking about, some stuff that I've heard. I just want to clarify that information so we don't know.
So whenever you join the federal government, you're in a 1 year, at least a 1 year probationary period, depending upon your job. So that doesn't mean that you've done something wrong. It just means that you have 1 year to work before, while they can still fire you or get rid of you or ask you to leave or whatever the case may be. And some people, if they join into or if they get hired into what is called an accepted service position, they have 2 years of that. So it doesn't mean that they're, bad people, or that they're that they've done anything incorrect or wrong. It just means that they have a year or 2 to work before they.
Well, given your definition, and by the way, I work in the private sector, and in the private sector, you can be fired for not tying your shoes. So my thing is that if the definition of probationary period is that we can fire you within this time frame for any reason, and then they get fired in that time frame for any reason, then wouldn't that be the purpose of the probationary period in the first place?
Yes, that is the purpose of their probationary period. But what I'm saying to you is that there are people in probationary periods who are needed in their jobs. And firing them willy-nilly is not going to do what you all think it's going to do. It's actually going to cripple some programs, and it has already crippled some programs in the federal government.
What programs have been crippled by these moves?
There's a soybean program that has actually been crippled that I read about on Twitter the other day. A man who was affected by, or a program that was affected by the USAID cut. There's scientific exploration or whatever having to do with soybeans that was cutting edge, and now that program has totally been
cutting edge soybeans, motherfucker.
And soybeans are one of the largest exports that we have. So that's going to have a trickle down effect to farmers.
You hear that shit, Zach? Now she concerned about the motherfucking soybean innovations. Gotta keep paying for your motherfucking taxes to keep paying for fucking soybeans. Welcome.
What do you think is the group of people that is A, hated by most people, and B, their hatred is justified?
I would go back to what are the most controversial words, which is F word, N word. That's my answer, because they probably are the most hated people.
You think F words and N words are more hated than Jews?
Well, we got to look at proportionality, obviously. I mean, based on the numbers, there's a hell of a lot more F word, N words than there are J words.
Group, I'm in this group on Facebook for paid petitioners. That's to find out about my, like when I went to Arizona and Kansas and do these jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody posted just randomly, like, they post about petition jobs, but it's also like a political forum because a lot of the people who do the petition jobs are politically engaged, or to some extent. And this random guy just posted this shit about like Israel and Jews and synagogue of Satan and all this. And then I commented and I was like, cool, we get it. You hate Jews. And then he sent me a private message and starts like harassing me in the private message and sent me like 30 memes, And then at one point I said to him, "You're a dumb faggot."
Mm-hmm.
And he got really triggered by that. He was like, "Oh, you hate gay people? I can't believe you would use that word. You can't use that word." It's like in Amir's rooms, you can't say the N word. Sorry, I said the F word, but you can't say the F word or the N word, but you can criticize Jews. And that makes me think that Jews are more widely hated than F word, N words.
Well, maybe because there's so many F words, N words that hate the J word.
Right, that's true. And I think most J words, although I have become, I've become hateful and judgmental to a degree that I am not comfortable with. I don't want to be hateful or judgmental at all. I want to be loving and compassionate and patient. I do identify some hatefulness and judgmental behavior in myself, but I think for the most part, the J words don't hate the F word, N words, but the F word, N words hate the J's.
There's a lot of F words, N words that hate J's, and there's a lot of J's that hate F word, N words, but not as much, I think, proportionally. It's the F word, N words that hate the J words proportionally more, in my opinion. Again, we don't have any statistical data. Abby, did you want to think about that? Welcome to USA. It's been an exciting morning already. We've been kicked from multiple rooms. People
called us F word, N words. People called us stupid J's. People said synagogue of Satan. We've been kicked out of rooms. We're still committed to enlightenment. We're still wasting our lives. We're still stupid, low IQ people talking about nothing, wasting time.
One thing I believe thoroughly is that if we are cutting government spending to send that money to private businesses, like Elon's SpaceX or Tesla to buy 200,000 electric vehicles for the government, things like that. If that's what we're going to do, I mean, I feel like part of enlightenment is figuring out how to actually successfully open and run a business, whether that's a media business or a hot dog stand. Meaning that if things work the way they should work and you have perfect wisdom, knowledge, enlightenment, and experience, theoretically, everybody should be able to be a successful entrepreneur. But then there's all this compliance component about paying your taxes and legal liability and unintended consequences that it makes opening a business, like most things in this country, just utterly impossible. So Doge on X has 99 posts. Only 99 posts, and that's supposedly a big thing. 99 posts, and we've been at it for like a month now. Only 99 posts. Almost all the fraud, waste, and abuse is for DEI contracts on education. And some of the contracts on education are to study the education being provided by the educators. So it's just a grift. It's a theft. It's a scam. And it's communication. It's being paid for useless, ineffective, worthless, waste of time hypnosis communication. Technically, the federal government is spending billions of dollars on internal hypnosis to make everybody essentially racist because it's historical revisionism.
Have you seen, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but have you seen the Have you seen these graphs that show like the increase of the word racism in publications like the New York Times? You've seen these graphs, right?
No, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that.
Oh, really? Bro, I like hanging out with you because I feel like I learn a lot from you, but then I can share things with you too. I mean, you already know this. Let me see if this is going to work. If I PTR it, it's going to cut it off. Yeah, you can't see shit, but here, PTR. It's like a circle, you know, so it cut it off, but you can see how at the bottom it says 1980, 1990, 2000, and it says New York Times, LA Times, blah, blah, blah. And you can see, you can imagine what this graph looks like, that basically between 2010 and 2020, the New York Times had a 712% increase in the frequency of the appearance of the words racist, racism, and racists. And so basically, over 10 years, they started posting about racism 700% more than they were posting about it before. And it's crazy too, bro, because like, you realize like, we have a little bit of perspective, you know, we have a little bit of perspective of like being able to remember 9/11 and being able to remember life before smartphones, like literally being able to remember life before a smartphone. But a lot of the people who are, for example, 25 today were 15 when Trump first came around. And so basically like, you know, from age 15 to 25, I was like a moron, F-word Marxist. And I don't know why, like 15 to 25-year-olds in general, I don't know. I guess I'm saying like, it's crazy to think about, like Keegan, you know, Keegan the other day, I don't know if you didn't hear him say this, but Keegan said to me, when he was in high school, all he heard was that America was a racist piece of trash. And then he got on social media and he became radicalized to become like basically like the white nationalist that he currently is. And I think that's really interesting. Because a lot of this stuff is like being shaped, a lot of the narrative is kind of being shaped by millennials, John.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of could be true, although you went to high school in Chicago?
Suburb outside of Chicago, yeah.
Yeah, so but I mean, it's possible. Like, let me ask you this. Did you learn about racism in high school? Because they always say, we didn't learn about racism in high school. I grew up in Washington, D.C. I feel like I did learn about racism in high school.
I don't remember it, but I wouldn't doubt that if there was time dedicated to communication about racism.
But even so, the millennial education that we received in high school is not the same as what kids are getting today or what kids have gotten over the past 10 years. And to hear Keegan, who I kind of think of Keegan as like a moron, Jew-hating, racist, white nationalist. You know, and I think like racism is kind of funny, but I don't actually want to be a racist. I don't actually want to be hateful to anybody. I really want to like be filled with the spark of love that the Tanya talks about, you know?
Well, look at it this way.
It's just...
Look at it this way, is that Allah is God, all is God. So is racism part of God? In communication,
God a racist nigga?
No, meaning in communication, it's a word, race, which has that double entendre. See, all of these things where it's like, I don't know how to feel, I don't know how to think. There's always a dualistic meaning. So that race is really, you know, who's faster than the other? Because if you're faster than the other person, like they're the ones who are going to get eaten. So this really does go back to like tactic, strategy, Machiavellian or Nietzschean politic. Because what we are really all doing here, see, this is why economics is stupid, because economics is also based off of, you know, real politique or real politics. So we are technically all being political on this app, and we are, in my opinion, we are all subconsciously vying for like an imaginary position power ladder or an imaginary pyramid power positioning. And this app is like technically a city, and people are all on the same phone, you know, and so there's tons of classification, and then there's like tons of like politic power. And like my way to essentially politic this app is to reframe it by recording it and going like next level crazy with it. Because if you were technically to record and bootleg every room on this app and put it on YouTube, you technically are like way, in my opinion, you're doing something that nobody else is doing. Like you're bottling everybody and putting them on a grocery store aisle for the general public to pick and choose. But you also, in a way, see the lack of power from the content, because on other platforms it doesn't attract any algorithm or any audience whatsoever. So I don't know. It's just like maybe we're just living in a hypnosis industrial complex, and the successful people are either very good hypnotists or good at reverse engineering the hypnotism. It seems like hypnotism and politics go hand in hand. And if you want to be political, and by being the contrarian, you can reverse engineer the hypnosis, you know, to try to build an audience to get the votes, to get the salary, to get the pension.
Yeah, I mean, there is something here. Like, it's not nothing. You know, you were the one, or one of the ones who helped me remember that we are gaining something from being here. And one of the things that we're gaining is, like, you know, we've heard it all. We've heard all the arguments, you know, and like you could listen to like a 3-hour podcast or like a 1-hour news segment, and you think they're gonna like delve into a topic, and you're like, bitch, I heard like 50 morons delve into this topic for 25 hours each. And so I've heard the ins and outs of all the arguments, and you were like the Clubhouse gives you superpowers offline.
Yeah.
Because you see people melting down offline, and you're just like, oh, I've seen this before. This is your classic meltdown. I had, you know, I'm working at this hotel, and the woman this morning, there was this Jazzy. She was like a Jazzy type in the hotel. She looked like Jazzy. She sounded like Jazzy. And she was a guest in the hotel, and she was yelling at the front desk. I come in at 6 a.m., and there's the overnight front desk guy, and he's a 65-year-old gay man. He's like a very queeny gay man, really nice guy, but like very soft, emotional gay man, 60-year-old queen. And this Jazzy type was like screaming in his face because at 4 a.m, she accidentally locked the door to her own bathroom somehow and couldn't get into the bathroom to take a shit, even though there's like a public bathroom and he was like, I can't, the maintenance guy's going to come in at 8, like just chill out, go back to sleep, or like use one of the public bathrooms in the hotel. And she's having like a psycho meltdown, and I was just watching this whole thing, like, just seeing basically
This
seeing
is like
Jazzy.
this is like the essence of Larry David and Curb Your Enthusiasm. There was something else I was going to tell you. Oh, is in comedy, like technically, you know what Kramer did? You know how he got canceled for saying the N-word on stage?
Right.
See,
I hope you're going to say what I think you're going to say.
what I'm saying is that because there's no violence, and because the F word, N word produces such an angry, violent response, but there's still no violence, that to me is what's really funny about extremist comedy, is that there's no violence, you know? So it's like being on a stage and people laughing because it's so vulgar, and there's no crossover to the violence. So it makes it possible to laugh. But what you're also laughing about is the absurdity of words and how people are so hypnotized and transfixed by them. So I don't know if you would have to tell the audience prior to doing the bit that this is all a hypnosis, and it's to essentially make you realize that you're not in control of your emotional state. you will automatically generate feelings and emotions to the vulgarity, but just be relaxed and know that there's no real violence happening here. That the words themselves are weightless, and it's your emotional response to the horrific onslaught of vulgarity you're about to hear that is what I'm trying to show you. And if you feel that upset, please just leave, but don't interrupt the hypnosis. Let everyone enjoy what I call comedy. Now, you may not consider it comedy or art, but there are others in this room that may appreciate the absurdity of words. So please, N-words, shut the fuck up. You know, and like go into the most vulgar comedy routine you can possibly concoct. And then at the end, you said, you know, you have to have some kind of like repetitive mnemonic to like finish the show or circle back to the beginning of the bit and go, again, everyone, you've just been hypnotized because all communication. Yeah, I guess that's what the bit would be. You'd say, again, everybody, all communication is hypnosis.
It's a bit. Well, so that's all. That all makes sense. But you still didn't say what I thought you were going to say. But you are kind of saying it. So, what do you think that Michael Richards is actually like a racist? Or
No.
What I think. Yeah, I think that he was. We didn't see what happened beforehand, but basically, I think he was being heckled,
Mm-hmm.
and then he said to the heckler, like, you know, we have the ability as smart people, perceptive people, if somebody's shitting on you, you can look at them and see what they're most sensitive about. Like, you baldy, look at your shiny bald
See,
head.
well, he thought he was in a clubhouse room that was unrecorded.
Right.
But he
He
wasn't.
thought that he was just like, well, look at you, you're a fucking N-word. I could stoop to your level too. You're an N-word.
Yeah.
You know, and it's really, he was demonstrating the idiocy of stooping to the level. It was to be like, you know, all the women who support trans. I wanted to comment this on a news article, but I didn't. I don't want people to see my hateful idiot comments because it's going to negatively affect my reputation.
Wait, do you think if he would have said N-word, there would have been no repercussions? Like literally N-word, not the N-word.
I don't know. That's a good question. I think that's a good question. That's a good question.
See that? Because
what I was going to say is like, you know, I want to point out that it's only fat and ugly women who ever defend trans women.
Wait, I say it again?
It's only fat and ugly women who defend trans women.
Yeah.
So like Riley Gaines, you know who that is?
Wait, trans women are women who present as men?
No, men who present as women. The way to do in the progressive language, if you want to be politically correct, you put if it's a transgender woman, trans is fake, John.
I know.
So in your mind, trans is fake. So in your mind, translate the word transgender as fake. Therefore, if I say transgender woman,
fake woman.
It's a fake
Got
woman,
it. I forgot.
Right?
I'm yeah. Okay. Forgot already.
So only fat, ugly women will ever defend the fake women because fat, ugly women are not threatened by men because nobody wants to rape them. Like only like a cute little 9-year-old girl is threatened by a transgender woman. Because a transgender woman, a fake woman who's like a horny man, he wants to rape like a beautiful little 9-year-old. He doesn't want to rape like a fat, ugly whore. So anyway.
Okay, so I want to go back. I did. I want to go back to the N-word because, you know, if you go into rooms and you say, I want to thank all the beautiful N-word people in here for gathering today to talk about N-word things and wasting N-word time. See, the thing about the N-word is, people have to infer, deduce, or allegedly assume that I'm actually saying that when I say N-word, that they're referring to the N-word, the N-word.
Well, this is a classic Louis. You've heard this is a classic Louis C.K. bit. Did you hear this one?
No.
This is an amazing Louis bit where he's like, when you say the N-word, what you're really doing is you're making me say it. You say N-word, and in my head I say, oh, he means nigger. Now, if you want to say nigger, you say it. Don't make me say it in my head. It's amazing.
Oh man, he is. You know, I don't listen to his stuff, but that is very, very funny because he's like a very kind comic. You know, it's like a gentle comedy because then it makes you laugh because it seems like him and Larry David are able to pick out of like middle income America or upper class America and example or demonstrate situations and communications essentially that people have had or have hypothetically had, or you could, you know, reasonably assume you could also create that hypothetical situation. But yeah, the N word is one of those things where, because it does point out the hypnosis aspect to comedy. See, comedy is basically a hypnosis dopamine flow of up downs, maybe, or it depends on how you want to arrange it. Like, do you know who the Sklar brothers are?
No, who is that?
They are these two Jewish twins, identical twins, and you know they're like B celebrities who do commentary. But my friend Max and I here in Chicago saw them do stand up, and it's like a vaudeville show for an hour and a half, and they sing and dance and do songs and routines, and it was just the funniest thing you've ever seen. And they sell T-shirts at the end. My point is like to have a see. I just feel like the future of comedy is like on the internet. You know, I mean, it's not really. I mean, the money is in the tickets, but I don't know. I think this year. So I live near Zany's Comedy Club here in Chicago. So I mean, I'm gonna get a ticket there and like try to meet the people that work there. But I definitely want to like film myself in maybe I can just like rent it for like 30 minutes or something. Maybe that's possible. But I want to film myself doing a comedy routine on Clubhouse, on stage, on YouTube, on Instagram, on X. And if anybody shows up, they show up. If I can get anybody, see, that's the thing. I'll never be able to get anybody to show up, so I have to just do it on Clubhouse YouTube, and because I'm gonna rent it like at an off time, like on a Tuesday at 11 a.m. or something, you know. But I want to have that backdrop of like being in a theater and on Clubhouse Live. It's like an experiment. Um, and then the other thing I was thinking is to like also when Elon Musk goes live, is to film that experience in that venue and like have like create an actual event called Watch Elon Musk Live and put it on, you know, all these Eventbrite sites and Facebook events and shit, and invite people to a free screening of Elon Musk Live. He may not go live. If he doesn't go live, then I'll just play historical footage that I have. But I want to broadcast it live because that might go viral. And that will draw attention to the fact that Adrian Dittman is Elon Musk. Because it's like a gaslight troll, meaning that I am trying to flare people's rage and anger at Elon to show them, like, you got suckered. Like, I'm a spider. This is my web.
Do you have a YouTube channel called Elon Musk Live?
No, I've got like a ton of Adrian Dittman accounts.
I know you have a whole bunch, but if you had one that was called Elon Musk Live, then every time he was live, you could go live and live stream it, and it would just be called Elon Musk Live. And then maybe it would get picked up by the news, and then somebody would say, "Did you know Elon Musk goes live? There's a man."
So I do that. I already do that. The point is trying to make an event go viral. Like, I think it has to have an actual setting where it becomes like a news story, where it is hypothesized that Adrian Dittman is 100% Elon Musk, and someone is organizing Elon Musk live events. So the public can watch and listen, you know, see, you have to frame the whole thing with titles. And so I'm just saying that is one way I'm just sharing my thoughts because it's technically a to-do, because I think that event could actually go viral. If I could organize it, you know, and it won't take me long to do those things, but it's on my to-do list. But anyways, what are you doing today? Abby, what are you doing? You just chilling?
It's the hair on somebody's nose in another dimension. And all these galaxies being the constituent elements. Who knows? But there is, I think, a fundamental principle that everybody must understand in order to know what is the meaning of the Tao, or the Chinese sense of the course of nature, and that is the principle of relativity. It's absolutely fundamental to an understanding of Taoist philosophy, relativity. That is to say that wherever you are, and whoever you are, and whatever you are, you're in the middle. You know, pig in the middle. That's the game. And you see, just in the same way as when you stand, say, on the deck of a ship, and you can see a horizon all around you to exactly the same distance. You're in the center of a circle because your senses extend a certain direction in all directions, and therefore give you the impression of being in the middle. Now, everything in the world feels like that. And also it has its own kind, which look natural to it. You see, spiders and hydras and sea urchins and so on don't look very natural to us. We say, well, I wouldn't want to look like that. But they say when they see us, well, what kind of an awful thing is that? And what a lot of nonsense it does. You see, if your dog watches you when you're typewriting, the dog looks at you and says, well, these human beings, especially cats, dogs have tried to catch on to human beings in a sort of a funny way, but cats look at you and think, you're out of your mind. You're absolutely crazy. What do you sit there all day for, feverishly pecking away at a typewriter, say, or doing something busy like that, when you could sit and curl up and purr? You're just the cat. From the cat's point of view, you don't understand what life's about at all. But all cats and cat company, cats in cat company, they feel that they are people. Because the definition of a person is where you look from.
Abby is a cat person. Okay, I'm going to read from this Aleister Crowley, A Book of Wisdom or Folly. Hope you enjoy this reading. This is a meditation hypnosis. This is called On the Art of Love and the Pleasures of the Mystic, De Arte Amore et Delicarum Mysticae. The path, therefore, unto this beatific vision of beauty, O my son, is that practice of Bhakti Yoga, which is written in the book called 815 or Ashtarte. By this mine hand, when I was in Gaul, the beloved at Montigny, that is hard by the forest of the Blue Fountain, with Agatha, my concubine, the very soul of love and of music, that had ventured herself from beneath the cross austral that she might seek me, to inspire and comfort me. And this was my reward from the masters, the constellation in the years of my sorrow. But the way that leadeth to the other form of this vision of beatitude, to wit sciences, Jnana Yoga or Raja Yoga, of which I have written only here and there, is one who should strew great stones upon the earth in disorder, by default of building them nobly into a pyramid. And of this do I most heartily repent me, and ask of the God Thoth that he may give me, albeit at the 11th hour, virtue and wit, that I may compose a true book upon these ways of union. Thy first step, therefore, O my son, is to attain unto Samadhi, and to urge thyself perpetually to repetition of thy success therein. For it hath been said by philosophers of old that practice maketh perfect, and that manners, being the constant habit of life, maketh man. Manners. This is called On the Highest Reward, True Wisdom and Perfect Happiness, De Premio Sumo Vero Sapientiae et Beatitudine Perfecta. Now then presently shall it come to pass that as by dint of each experience that component thereof which is within thee is attuned to it, a slight effort shall suffice to unite thee therewith in this without shock, so that thou art no longer thrown back from the trance as exhausted, but abidest therein almost without knowledge of thy state. So then at last the Samadhi shall become normal to thy common consciousness, as it were a point of view. Thus all things shall appear to thee very continually as to one in his first love. By the vision of beauty and by the vision of science thou shalt marvel constantly with joy unfathomable at the mystery of the laws whereby the universe is upheld. This is that which is written, true wisdom and perfect happiness. O my son, it is in this contemplation that one hath the reward of the path. It is by this that the tribulations are rolled away as a stone from thy tomb. It is with this that thou art wholly freed from the illusions of distinction, being absorbed into the body of Our Lady Nuit. May she grant to thee this beatitude, yea, not to thee only, but to all that are. This is called On the Hell of the Slaves, De Inferno Servorum. Now, O my son, having understood the will, having understood the heaven that is within thee, according to thy will, learn this concerning the hell of the slaves of the slave gods, that it is a true place of torment. For they, restricting themselves and being divided in will, are indeed the servants of sin, and they suffer, because, not being united in love with the whole universe, they perceive not beauty, but ugliness and deformity, and not being united in understanding thereof, conceive only of darkness and confusion, beholding evil therein. Thus at last they come, as did the Manichaeans, to find to their terror a division even in the one, not that division which we know for the craft of love, but a division of hate. And this, multiplying itself, conflict upon conflict, endeth in hotchpot, and in the impotence and envy of Choronzon, and in the abominations of the abyss. And of such the lords are the black brothers, who seek by their sorceries to confirm themselves in division. Yet in this even is no true evil, for love conquereth all, and the corruption and disintegration is also the victory of Babylon. A rhapsody to Our Lady, Rhapsodia de Domina Nostra. Blessed be she, aye, blessed unto the ages be Our Lady Babylon, that plieth her scourge upon me, even upon me, to meta Ophion, to compel me to creation and to destruction, which are one in birth and in death, being love. Blessed be she, uniting the egg with the serpent, and restoring man unto his mother the earth. Blessed be she that offereth beauty and ecstasy in the orgasm of every change, and that exciteth thy wonder and thy worship by the contemplation of her mind many wild. Blessed be she that hath filled her cup with every drop of my blood, so that my life is lost wholly in the wine of her rapture. Behold how she is drunken thereon, and staggereth about the heavens, wallowing in joy, crying aloud the song of uttermost love. Is not she thy true mother among the stars, O my son? And hast not thou embraced her in the madness of incest and adultery? Yea, blessed be she, blessed be her name, and the name of her name unto the ages. A rhapsody to his star, Rhapsodia de Astro Suo. O my son, knowest thou not the joy to lie in the wilderness and to behold the stars in the majesty of motion, calm and irresistible? Hast thou thought there that thou also art a star, free because consciously in accord with the law and determination of thy being? It was thine own true will that bound thee in thine orbit, therefore thou speedest on the path from glory unto glory in continual joy. O sun, O reward of my work, O harmony and completion of my nature, O token of my toil, O witness of my love for thy sweet mother, the holy and adulterous Hilarion, my concubine, adorable in thine innocence as she in her perfection, is not this verily intoxication of the spirit, in the innermost to be free absolutely and eternally, to run and to return upon the course and the play of love, to fulfill nature constantly in light and life, afloat in the ether, O my God, without support, without constraint, wing thine own way, O swan, O bliss of brightness.
And of course, that is the meaning of the very interesting Buddhist idea. You can only become a Buddha, that is to say, you can only become enlightened, liberated, aware of your unity with the universe from the human position. And Buddhism calls itself the middle way, because it is the way for someone in the middle, and that's everyone. So there is, believe it or not, a form of yoga, ways of liberation, for worms, for fruit flies, for snails, for spiders, for birds, for everything. And they, you see, in their situation, feel just as cultured as we can possibly feel. And they have their distinctions and their snobberies, just in the same way that we do. Because you see, they dig all sorts of things that we don't even notice. We think a person is cultured because they play the piano or the violin or they read poetry or they have a big library and they have paintings all around and they have a fancy house and so on. And we say, well, there's a person of culture. And we can see at once that this is really some rather elegant human being.
That begs the question, then why didn't they do that for all of the agencies, right? Because they're doing it for the military because they don't want...
And dairy few.
And stinky dairies.
Okay.
Yeah, well, fine, but he also said that there's a...
I didn't say I agreed with everything he said. I agreed with his comments on the DNA and the lineage.
Do you then just disagree with this notion that Jews are people who are...
You're gonna have to break it down for me one at a time in hour number 3. I'd be more than happy to discuss it. Sure. And with that, thank you. With that, it's time for the break. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you back on the craziness, the outrageousness that we call every Saturday Ask Uncle Steve. If you're in the audience and want to come up and talk about anything you want, we encourage you to do so. Thank you, Cora, for helping do the heavy lifting. She's our expert in infrastructure. Thank you, John, for doing the heavy lifting. He's our expert in physics. And thank you, everybody on stage, for contributing, and everybody in the audience.
Genesis 2 is in chapter 2. Sorry. Genesis chapter 2. No, yeah, right. I'm right. Verse 7.
Okay. But to get back to...
be a problem. Because what got them there, it doesn't work out for normal life sometimes. So, like my uncle was in IIT, he's super well balanced, like the opposite of that. So I think Nachiketa also is a pretty good example. It doesn't have to be that way, but some of the high IQs are completely imbalanced. Like,
like what happens is life just starts passing you by very quickly. I think in college, and if you just don't change, then you become a complete gooner, because what else can you do, right? You just start feeling left out, in fear.
बुरा मानने वाली क्या बात है यार, इसमें सही बात है यार, वहाँ पे नहीं है भाई कुछ भी।
मुझे लग रहा है तभी हर्ट हो गए हो।
नहीं मैं हर्ट क्यों होगा? अब देखो, जो वहाँ पे दफनाने की परंपरा थी, वो
वहाँ के माहौल ऐसा था कि लकड़ी होती नहीं रेगिस्तान के अंदर, दूर दूर तक रेत होते हैं। नहीं सर,
अरे आपकी वचनों से आप व्याकुल लग
अरे
रहे
सर
हो।
सुन नहीं रहे आप, मैं तो बता रहा हूँ ना, वहाँ का सिनेरियो बता रहा हूँ।
अरे मैं भी तो बता रहा हूँ, आप इतने व्याकुल क्यों हो रहे हो? व्याकुल मत हो यार।
What do you have to say about October 7th?
Is your mama.
When I give you an answer, I told you the conflict didn't start in October 7th. It started a long time ago.
When you take